Today, I will be continuing my discussion on misery and looking at the various causes of misery and trying to define and to narrow what it is that we're talking about when we talk about misery. And more importantly, look at what are the causes of this misery. Now, without a shred of doubt, all human beings suffer. That's just the nature of being human and being part of the human experience, because uh, there is a finite amount of resources on the planet, and because of this finitude, it creates enmity and conflict among people. So in this sense, misery ensues as a result of that. Now, in the case of mortality as well, or death, um, these are the existential conditions of life that breeds insecurity, fear, and grief into our lives while existing here. All peoples experience these exterior forms of suffering, regardless of whether they're religious or not. And while being a relatively practicing Muslim protects one from a life of misery to the extent of one's dedication and devotion to the practice of Islam, not believing and practicing Islam invites misery in the form of an active malevolent or evil spirit, which is acknowledged in the teachings of the Quran. And this is important to note when we are looking at what are the causes of suffering. And in chapter 43, verse 36, God says that if anyone withdraws himself from the remembrance of Allah most gracious, we appoint for him an evil spirit to be an intimate companion to him. Now here we're referring to the jinn, an evil jinn among them. I continue. Such evil ones really hinder them from the path, but they think that they are being guided aright. At length, when such a one comes to us, meaning the person who has been misguided, a human being, when he comes to us on the day of judgment, he says to his evil companion, the evil spirit that will accompany him on that day, the day of judgment, would that between me and thee were the distance of east and west. Ah, evil is the companion indeed. What's interesting about this verse is that it really highlights, it really sets the context for, yes, people who believe and people who don't believe. And even more importantly, it sets the context for people who remember Allah and people who don't. Now, a person can say, yeah, we believe, or they can even actually believe in God, the messenger, and his family, and believe in all of the teachings of Islam, but they don't practice. And so in doing that, they open themselves up to misery. And they're first initiated into this process of misery by the assignment of this evil spirit. Now, for the unbelievers, this is automatic, right? Because the moment you disbelieve in Allah, whether and you don't hold on to the revelation sent down by God, whether that's through Christianity, Judaism, or in this case Islam, what happens, God says, is that he automatically assigns an evil spirit. It opens up, right? It opens your soul up to being afflicted with this evil spirit. And God says that on the day of judgment, they will, until the day of judgment, believe that they're okay, that they're fine, that they're good people, that all the things that they're doing in this life is okay. But when they come on the day of judgment, they realize that they were duped, right? That they were duped, and that they will wish there was a distance between them as far as the distance is between east and west. And the Quran continues in chapter 7, 202. But their brethren, the evil spirit, plunged them deeper into error and never relaxed their efforts. So this is a constant. They become now powerless to this energy, this evil and negative energy that now afflicts them. And we see this in today's society, and especially in Western societies, where they are the people who have championed freedom and democracy and liberality. And essentially what this means is that they have the right to do whatever they want, right? And behave however they want, no matter how immoral or irreligious it may be. And you see that over time, the society is not getting better. It keeps getting worse, right? This is why, and the reason why is because God says that this spirit keeps leading them deeper and deeper into falsehood, into immorality, into things that now don't even make sense anymore, right? And today, in today's society, now we're seeing that we can't even talk about things in a reasonable and sensible manner anymore, right? That truth is itself doesn't have any place in people's conversations anymore. All right, this is how degenerate the society has devolved into, right? And this is because there's an evil spirit on the souls of these people that keeps leading them into greater and greater spiritual degeneracy that's manifesting itself in all sorts of problems we're seeing in the society today. So this evil spirit and their impact on the individual may be experienced as a malevolent force or a negative energy in a person's soul, and can be experienced as a source of emotional and psychic instability. And we see this in society. All sorts of psychic trauma manifesting itself as real and as to be accepted in society, right? Resulting, of course, in what the Quran fundamentally refers to as the existential realities of fear and misery. God says that that condition that we're witnessing is really a condition of misery. It's a condition of fear, okay? And it's a spiritual condition. When I say that this fear and misery is a spiritual condition, I mean that it exists not extraneous, right, to the individual. Rather, it's a natural occurring state of the human soul or human psyche when one lives without faith and knowledge of God. In the Quran, chapter 2, verse 38, God says, we said, get ye down all from here, speaking regarding Adam and Eve and the shaitan or the devil. And if as is sure there comes to you guidance from me, from God, whoever follows my guidance, on them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. So God has set the context, right? God has set the context that the purpose for us being here is so that we may follow the guidance. And in following his guidance, it will alleviate the otherwise default condition of the human being, where faith and obedience in living and initiating the soul in the things that God has ordained for it, right? In the absence of that, the natural or default condition is fear and misery. And God has made that very clear. And in chapter 20, verse 124, but whoever turns away from the remembrance of Allah, truly his shall be a miserable life, and we shall raise him blind on the day of judgment. Okay? The point to be noted here is that misery is the default position if you are not involved in or preoccupied by the guidance to which God has sent down for us. This needs to be understood. Now, the existential condition that I'm speaking of are also found in Rumi's poetry, or in some of Rumi's poems. Jalaluddin Rumi was a Persian Muslim scholar and mystic from the 13th century, and he has written extensively on Islamic mysticism and the soul's inner journey towards God and its union with God. His work has captured the spiritual goals edified in the teachings of the Quran and the Hadiths. Hadiths, of course, refers to the Prophet's life in terms of his sayings, his actions, and the things that he has permitted or otherwise not permitted. And Rumi says in one of his poems, he says that, caught by our thoughts, we worry about everything. The human intellect is a place where hesitation and uncertainty take root. There is no way to overcome this hesitation except by falling in love. Everyone is overridden by thoughts. That's why they have so much heartache and sorrow. Now, these are all separate snippets of various poems that he has written. And what's very clear in his poems is that he's saying that the intellect is by nature, it's by its very nature given to hesitation and uncertainty, right? And this hesitation results in thoughts that bear a sense of worry, right? In other words, the fear and misery exists at a very existential psychic level, right? That even when outward elements or factors of danger or fear is threatening the human being, that inwardly, by their own psychic, in their own psychic reality, in themselves, that they're afflicted with worry. It's the nature of their thoughts to be in a state of worry. It's the nature of their intellect to be in this state of worry. And that it's attributed to the very mechanism of thoughts, right? Right? That everyone is overridden by thoughts to the extent that that's why they have so much heartache and sorrow. Okay, so once again, it doesn't matter whether you say, oh, I believe in God and I'm Muslim, I ascribe to the teachings of Islam, that is an important step, but it is not what rids us of this state of fear and worry that plagues all human beings, but in particular the human being who has rejected God and does not practice what what God has sent down for him or her to practice. Now, I want to leave it there for now, and I will continue the discussion in another video. I hope that you will join me there. Assalamu alaikum, and goodbye for now.